Bet you saw the news. Just 2 years ago, South Carolina was the fastest growing state in America, and it's consistently one of the top 5 in domestic migration. But here's what nobody told you. Most of that growth has passed right by the state capital. Charleston's population exploded 21% over the last decade, while Columbia has been creeping along at just 1.5% a year. Now that might sound like bad news, but stick with me. Hey folks, it's Brent Downing with the Downing Group here. By the end of this video, you'll understand why millions are choosing Central South Carolina over Columbia and why Columbia's slower pace could actually be your biggest opportunity. So, to really understand what's going on here, look at the numbers. Columbia's growth story looks way different once you peek at the numbers, and it matters big time if you're thinking about real estate here. Right now, the Columbia Metro has about 777,000 people. Growth is around 1.5% a year. Sounds okay, right? But then you look 2 hours east at Charleston. They've got 765 people, almost the same size, but in the last 10 years, they've exploded by 21%. That's crazy. And that's a big deal because Columbia's slower pace is a big reason why homes here cost well below the national average. In fact, later on, I'll show you why this city ranks as one of the most affordable spots you'll find. Now compare us to Greenville. 2 years ago, the upstate pulled in $9 billion in investments and 81 new projects. That kind of money and activity shows just how much momentum Greenville has right now. The long-term outlook says the same thing. By 2042, the coast and the upstate are expected to keep booming, while the Midlands will keep moving at a crawl. Now here's the flip side the numbers don't show. Slower growth isn't always bad. It can mean more stability, lower prices, and a tighter community vibe instead of endless construction. For a lot of people, that's actually a win. Here's the thing, folks. I drop new market updates and neighborhood deep dives every single week. Stuff most buyers never even get their hands on. So hit subscribe and you'll get the real numbers on Columbia, plus the hidden gem neighborhoods I'm finding right now. It doesn't cost you a thing, but when it comes time to buying, it could save you serious money. So, looking at all this, the real question becomes, why are people picking Charleston or Greenville over Columbia? A lot of it comes down to one thing. Who's signing the paychecks in each city? All right, let's talk about what makes Columbia's economy tick and why it feels so different from Charleston or Greenville. Check out the top employers here. The state of South Carolina tops the list with 32,000 people. Prisma Health follows with 15,000, and Blue Cross Blue Shield has almost 11,000 employees, while USC adds another over 6,000 employees. Added up and the story's pretty clear. Healthcare makes up 14% of all jobs here. Public administration adds 8%. Columbia is a government town with healthcare as its backbone, and you can even see that in travel. Columbia's airport runs 36 flights a day to 8 different destinations. That's not too much. We'll come back to why that matters when we hit infrastructure later. But for now, just know it limits both businesses and weekend trips. Now look at the paychecks. The median household income in Columbia is around $55,000, while Charleston is up over $90,000 and Greenville is almost at $70,000. That's a big gap. It shows just how different Columbia's economy really is. What's really interesting is this. The Department of Employment and Workforce says the Midlands should add 45,000 jobs by 2032. That's over 11% growth. It's solid even if it's not that big splashy corporate growth you see in other places. And that creates a certain lifestyle. Columbia runs on government hours, school schedules, and hospital shifts. That gives people stability and predictability. Some folks love it, while others feel it's a little too structured. But here's the part that matters for real estate. This kind of economy shapes where people can actually afford to live. And that's where Columbia's story gets really interesting for buyers. That's exactly what sets up Columbia's biggest strength: low cost. This city has one of the most affordable housing markets in the country, and that can mean a lot for families. Right now, the median home value in Columbia is about $300,000. Nationally, it's closer to $370,000. Think about it. What might get you a small condo in Charleston could buy you a full-on suburban house here with a yard. When it comes to lake property, when you go up to Lake Kiwi, you're going to spend at least 1.5 times as much for the same kind of lake home. And when you look at affordability, it's no surprise families are flocking to certain suburban areas around Columbia. Later on, I'll show you one of these communities that's become the go-to spot for families. It's a mix of strong schools, good prices, and that real neighborhood feel. We'll dig into it in just a bit. The housing market here also runs at a different pace. Here in 2025, homes sit on the market for about 45 days and they usually get a couple offers. No wild bidding wars, no stressful cash-only battles. The average price per foot is close to $145 per foot, up about 4% this year. Not flashy, but solid. And the forecast? Home values are expected to rise another 2.5% in 2026. Again, not crazy growth, but steady and reliable. For buyers, that means you actually have breathing room. You can think, negotiate, and buy without that sense of panic. But here's the part a lot of folks don't think about. Lower prices mean you actually build equity more slowly. If you're counting on your house to be your big retirement plan, Columbia might not be the best play. But if you just want your home to be a place to live, not a stock you're betting on, Columbia could be the right choice for you. And the savings don't stop at the sticker price. Property taxes, insurance, and even maintenance all run cheaper than what you'd pay on the coast. Your dollar stretches further here, which means more money for, well, life. And here's one more thing that makes Columbia stand out. Its location, smack in the middle of the state. That's both a blessing and a challenge. Columbia's geography sets up a lifestyle that some folks love and others skip right past. And honestly, the city's original purpose still shapes how it feels today. Charleston has the beaches and Greenville has the mountains. Columbia sells location. That may not sound exciting at first. It turns out to be a pretty great story to live. Here's the deal. Columbia sits on the fall line, where the Broad River and the Saluda Rivers meet. From here, you're an hour and a half from the coast in Charleston and about 2 hours or so from the Blue Ridge Mountains. You could start your morning with breakfast at the lake, grab lunch downtown, and end up eating dinner at the beach, all in the same day. And of course, no trip to Columbia, South Carolina would be complete without coming down to Williams-Brice Stadium and seeing a Gamecock football game. That central spot isn't random. Back in 1786, Columbia was chosen as America's second planned city. We'll dig into that history later, but the short version is this. The city was built to be a government and education hub, not a big business center. Now the climate, it's humid subtropical. Columbia gets about 46 inches of rain every year. Average temps run 56 degrees in January and 92 to 94 in July. Summers here, hot and sticky, no way around it. When you live at the meeting point of three rivers, you get the perks and the problems. What a lot of people don't realize is that Columbia isn't the destination, it's the hub. Charleston gets the tourists, Greenville pulls in corporate moves. Columbia gets the people who want access to everything without living in the middle of all the chaos. And for weekend trips, it's a dream. Lake hopping, beach hopping, mountain hopping, you can do it all and still come back to your own bed that night. And since we're talking about being in the middle, let's hit the next piece, how you actually get around. Columbia's transportation setup has its own story to tell, full of both opportunities and limits. Columbia's infrastructure feels like two totally different stories. On the road, the city's a champ. In the air, not so much. And that split really shapes how people live and how business gets done here. Let's start with the roads. Three major interstates meet right here, I-20, 26, and 77. That makes Columbia a natural hub for shipping and distribution. Honestly, if you've got to get anywhere by car in South Carolina, Columbia is about as good as it gets. And check this out, the Carolina Crossroads Project. It's more than $2 billion going into interstates, set to wrap up by 2029. This isn't just adding a lane or two, it's a full design of how traffic flows through the heart of the state. Malfunction Junction hopefully won't be that anymore. Rail adds another piece to the puzzle. Two major railroads, CSX and Norfolk Southern, run right through Columbia. That puts the city right in the middle of the Southeast freight network. But here's the turning point, air travel. Columbia Metropolitan handles about 1 million passengers a year with 36 daily flights to just 8 non-stop destinations. Compare that to Charleston or Greenville, Spartanburg, where you got way more flights and way more passengers. Not to mention Charlotte, which is about an hour and a half north. So what happens? A lot of people just drive to Charlotte or Atlanta when they need better flight options. That works fine if you only travel once in a while. But if you're a business traveler or someone flying all the time, it could be a real headache. And that's the trade-off. If most of your life happens on the road, Columbia is perfect. But if you're flying a lot, it can be a challenge. So the big question is, what does this mean for everyday life in Columbia? Well, that's where the suburbs come in. And what you find there is pretty surprising. Columbia as a whole may grow slowly, but the suburbs are a whole different story. Out there, families are getting the kind of quality of life you usually only see in bigger, pricier metros. Let's start with the schools. Lexington-Richland School District 5 scores an A and ranks number 2 in the entire state. Richmond School District 2 pulls an A- and ranks number 3 in the Columbia area. Pretty strong, and education doesn't stop there. The Census Bureau says over 90% of Columbia residents finished high school, and about 45% have a bachelor's degree or higher. That's an educated community that clearly values learning. Which makes sense when you think about Columbia's design. This city was built around the University of South Carolina, founded way back in 1801. That choice over 200 years ago still explains so much about how Columbia works today. Healthcare, covered. Prisma Health leads the way, and you've also got the VA Medical Center, plus other hospital systems. For families, that's real peace of mind. Culture packs a punch too. The South Carolina State Museum takes up 4 floors downtown with more than 1 million objects. Columbia Museum of Art turns 75 in 2025, showing off 7,000 works across 5,000 years. And Riverbank Zoo and Garden, one of the top attractions in the Southeast with over 2,000 animals. That's not small town stuff, that's big city level. In fact, some say it's the second best zoo next to San Diego in the country. Recreation leans heavily on water. Lake Murray covers 50,000 acres for boating, swimming, and fishing. Congaree National Park offers hiking and camping in old-growth forest. And the Three Rivers Greenway ties it all together with trails for walking and biking. I'm here at the Lake Murray Dam. This lake was created back in the 1920s, and at the time, it was the largest man-made lake in the world. It's 50,000 acres, and I'm telling you what, it's a great recreational lake and very affordable. So yeah, the suburbs around Columbia bring a lot to the table. Strong schools, reasonable commutes, amenities that easily compete with bigger metros. But to really get why Columbia looks the way it does today, you've got to rewind all the way back to 1786. That's when one decision set the stage for everything, from housing prices to job opportunities. So yeah, Columbia's identity was basically locked in from the start. And that history still explains almost everything you see here today, from the government-heavy economy to why housing is so affordable. Back on March 22nd, 1786, the state legislature made Columbia its new capital. It was a compromise to replace Charleston. They designed it with a 2-mile square grid and huge 150-foot wide streets. The point was clear. This was going to be a political and administrative city, not a trade hub. Then in 1801, the University of South Carolina was founded. The whole idea was to unite the state and train leaders. From day one, Columbia was built around government and higher education, not private business. This afternoon, I thought I would bring you down to the Horseshoe at the University of South Carolina, Gamecock Nation. So this is kind of the central part of campus, kind of an open area. If school were in session, you would see students just jam-packed throughout this Horseshoe, and just kind of a gathering place for all the USC students. The Civil War hit hard, and in 1865, Union forces destroyed most of the city. In fact, you can still see some places in the State House where cannonballs hit it. Columbia had to rebuild the city from scratch, and even then doubled down on the same mission. Government and education first, not commerce. Now compare that with Charleston, founded in 1670 as a port, or Greenville, which took off in the 1800s with textiles. Those cities grew around business. Columbia grew around public service, and that's why today you see a stable government-centered economy, great public institutions, and strong community amenities. But you don't see the kind of high-paying corporate jobs or wild growth that fuels places like Charleston or Greenville. Columbia's DNA as a planned capital means it thrives as a government seat, college town, and a regional service hub. But a booming business center? That was never in the plan, although we do have our share of businesses, including the new Scout automotive plant that's opening up in Blythewood. So what does all this history actually mean for you if you're considering Columbia? Let me give you my honest take as someone who's helped thousands of families figure this market out. After breaking down these 7 factors, the question becomes, is Columbia's slower growth a red flag or an opportunity? Columbia offers stability over speed, value over fast appreciation, and community over ambition. Here's my honest assessment. Columbia is a great place to live if your priorities line up with what the city does best. It's affordable, steady, right in the center of the state, and family friendly. If Columbia is on your radar, I'm here to help you with the best neighborhoods and prices for your situation. Send me an email at brentd@thedowningteam.com and we'll set a time to chat about your move. After helping thousands of families make smart Columbia moves, I can save you time and help you avoid costly mistakes. Let's get started. But here's what I want you to see next. If you've ever wondered whether Columbia's steady pace is really paying off, the numbers tell a story most people never notice. Click that video right there. I'll take you deep into Columbia's real growth data, the major employers moving in, and the big infrastructure projects reshaping the city right now. Have a great week.